Welcome back to The Laura Show. I have an incredible guest with me today, Tia Slightham. She is the founder of Tia Slightham Parenting Solutions. And well, first and foremost, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I met you probably a number of years ago at a Christmas party. You might not remember this, but I met you a couple of years ago at a Christmas party because your husband happens to be my broker of record at the real estate brokerage that I work with. So he's an incredible man, obviously very, very successful. But it was kind of funny being introduced to you, the wife, because you were just such a little spitfire.
The boss's wife.
The boss's wife. And you know what's funny? My husband is in commercial real estate, and early on in my real estate career, I went to a lot of events with him as well, and I was always like his wife, right? And what I found so interesting with you is that you had this amazing career, and you're doing your own thing, and you're just such, there's no other word to say it, but like little spitfire. My husband always calls me like his little firecracker.
Yeah.
And I guess I saw a little bit of myself in you.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I need to have you on the show because I think you have a lot of amazing advice. And I've obviously watched a lot of your videos and what you're doing on social media, which we will touch on. But I think you can help a lot of people. I'm 38 years old. My girlfriends are, somewhere between first, second, third kid. I personally don't have kids, so I'm watching as a bystander, like on the outside looking in and seeing the struggles that a lot of women and parents in general have. And so it was kind of funny because today, as I was just telling you before we started filming, that I actually put this up on Instagram before saying that I was going to be speaking with you and if anyone has any questions. And my inbox was flooded with people asking questions about parenting from infants to teenagers across the spectrum. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a really, really great conversation. But first and foremost, we have to start with the boot that's on your foot.
Yeah, because this is just what moms do. They walk the dog, they cook the meals, they do all the things. And I slipped on ice a month ago, and I'm still in.
And you're still here.
Boot.
I think this actually tells such a perfect story. I was saying, you'd messaged me, you're like, I'm in a boot right now. And I was like, this is so perfect because I think this really goes to show what mothers and parents, but I'm going to say mothers in here, really, really go through just to try to get their kids out the door, their kids up, their kids do the homework, they're fed, walking the dog, all the responsibilities. And somehow in all of this, you manage to still operate a business.
So we get it done.
You get it done somehow. So pat on the back first and foremost.
Thank you.
I want to start with kind of where you're at now, just to give some context to our viewers and our listeners of, what is your family dynamic now? What does the family look like? And what exactly is your role in your company?
Yeah. So I have two boys. Hudson is 14. I can't even believe it. Like a full-blown man in a little body. Well, not so little. He's
taller than me now.
He's 5'11".
Taller than me a while ago.
And he wears a 13 shoe. He's going to pass my husband up in no time. And then my younger one is going to be 12 in June. So mom of two boys with a husband, as you know, who works a lot of hours. And I originally just was so passionate about parenting because I was passionate about kids in general. So I started my career as a kindergarten teacher and my master's in early childhood education. I'm from the States originally. And
so, we're from the States,
Portland, Oregon.
Right.
And so I taught kindergarten for a number of years and realized year after year, there were 5 kindergarten classes in our school. And every year they would always say to me, the other teachers, you always get the good kids. You always get the good kids. And I was thinking to myself, I do not get the good kids. They're a product of their environment and what I am, the expectations I have and the boundaries I have and the nurturement that I give them. And so year after year, I could help my students surpass state academic standards. They were happy to be at school. I was happy to have them. I loved my job. And so I knew with 30 kindergartners, 90% non-English speaking, who had never been to school before, if I could get them there, that with my own 2 kids, I could get them there. And that it wasn't just me, it was the skills. And that was what drove me to realize I could help other parents get there too.
So when did you decide, okay, I'm not going to be a teacher anymore. I'm going to go full blown into coaching? Or was there time off in between, like when you were having your family?
There was time off in between. So story for another time, I did meet my husband in Las Vegas. And so I was a teacher.
Oh, this is amazing.
So I was a teacher in the States and he's from Canada. And we met at his brother's bachelor party and my sister's bachelorette party. And we made dinner reservations at the same 2 restaurants, the same 2 nights. And 3 months later, I moved here. So it was the end of the school year. It was summer, quote unquote, break. And I came for, I guess, a little trial.
I'm looking at Chris in a whole different way right now.
A little trial. And never went back. And so that's when I left my teaching career. And being that it's another country, I wasn't eligible to work here until we had everything figured out. And by that point, I had kids of my own. And so with that, I became fascinated in the developmental milestones and why was my, son going to bed at 5:30 and sleeping all night? And why was he never fussy? And why did my toddler not have tantrums? And why were they not screaming and throwing themselves on the floor? Like, what was I doing that was different? Because we're not magic unicorns. What was I doing that was different that I could then show other parents? And as time went on, people just kept asking me, like, how are you doing that? How are you doing that? And I was like, that's it. One of my friends was like, you're starting a blog. I want you to start a blog. And I originated with a blog called Mommy Secrets. And that was where I focused mainly on sleep and helping parents sleep train their babies. So they would go to bed at 5:30 and sleep all night. And pretty soon I'd sleep trained, I don't know how many parents on Facebook for free. And that's when my husband, Chris, said, you want to start charging for this. And that's when it kind of slowly started to trickle more into a business aspect.
Just to stick with the career for a bit, when you were, raising your kids, were you kind of always hungry to get back to working, or were you satisfied at home?
Yeah, good question. So satisfied being a stay-at-home mom. Like I think deep down, I always wanted to stay at home with my kids. And I was so grateful that I had that opportunity. And I wanted to do everything I could with my own kids. But I was so interested in their development and why I loved it when so many parents don't love it, that
I got to tell you, on the outside looking in, it looks hard. But it's like, a lot of my friends are like, when are you going to have kids? I'm like, to be honest, you're not selling it.
No, most of the world, we're not selling it. Yeah. And also around society and the judgments we get as parents is that it should be easy. And then when you look in and you see it looking hard, then parents feel really judged. They're like, I suck at this. I'm failing at this. Like, this shouldn't be this hard. Why is it this hard? Parenting is hard because we're so emotionally tied to our kids and we want the absolute best. And they're relying on us to teach them to potty train, to sleep, to speak, to everything that they are going to do is on our shoulders as parents. And so when we're not, quote unquote, doing a good job, parents put a lot of blame on themselves and a lot of pressure on themselves.
I can see that. I can see a lot of my friends suffering from this mom guilt. I hear them throw around that word a lot, right? And when we're catching up and we're having drinks together, you can see the turmoil in their heads because, like you said, they all want what's best for the kids.
Absolutely.
It's not like I've really met a parent where I think they're
out to get them.
Yeah, like everyone, for the most part, really want their kids to thrive and succeed in this world. I think oftentimes they're just not confident in their decision making. So like when you get a client who comes to you, is it a confidence thing for the most part, or is it simply like they just don't have the right tools?
Both. I would say absolutely both. So much of it is that societal pressure that affects the confidence, that we just feel like we can't do it. They look at Instagram, let's say, and it looks like you see all these perfect pictures and this amazing families. It's not real life. But real life doesn't mean parenting has to be kids screaming and throwing themselves on the floor all day. That's not real life either. There is a place where we're going to meet in the middle. And so for parents who come to me, they're lacking confidence from outside pressures, but they're also lacking confidence from the way they were parented. So they don't, a lot of times, and I'll just sort of like blanket statement it, a lot of people don't want to parent the way they were raised.
Yes.
And so in their heart of hearts, they're like, I am never going to do that to my kids. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to have my kids look at me in fear because I'm so mad at them, because that's how my parents parented me and I don't like it. And so they say that to themselves, but then they look in the mirror and they catch themselves doing that.
Why do you think that happens?
Because they don't have the skills.
Because they don't have any other skills, because they didn't learn any other
skills. And so I say it all the time, parenting is not intuitive. It's a learned skill.
But it seems intuitive for you.
Well, so...
Like, how come it comes so naturally to you, do you think? Like, you just had amazing parents?
You know what? I had a happy medium of parents. So I'm very close to both my parents still today. My parents got separated when I was 6. So I didn't have that, perfect Brady Bunch family where everybody thinks, that it's going to be Pleasantville, let's say. But my dad was super authoritarian. So you listened because he told you to listen. And if you didn't listen, you weren't quite sure. Now, thankfully, I never was spanked, but I was yelled at and maybe had my ear pulled a couple times. But my mom was super permissive. So she let everything go because she was making up for the sternness in my dad, and she didn't love that. And so we had super permissive and super authoritarian. And somehow I came out in the middle. And I also knew that what the way my dad had raised me with the yelling and the being angry, that it didn't feel good to me. And I knew that I didn't want to repeat that with my
It's instinctively with
I knew
yourself.
it. Yeah, I knew it. And because I took the profession that I took in being a kindergarten teacher and having my master's in education and learning about child development, I think I had education and tools to go along with my internal instincts. And so it does come back to tools and skills and foundations, and knowing that if you're going to change your child's behavior, you absolutely have to change your parenting. It's the only way. We're not going to change our kids if we're not making changes.
Right. My gosh. In all honesty, so I have an 8-year-old dog, and he's not the best behaved dog. And the irony is I know it was me who created this monster of a pet. So I'm kind of like, well, thank God I practiced on this dog first, because, I didn't set the boundaries. But ironically, like, I read the books, and the books were, explaining the boundaries around a dog. But the thing with a dog is I'm okay if my dog grows up to be 8, 12, 14, hopefully, and doesn't, he doesn't need a sense of self so much, right? He just needs to know the boundaries. But I always wonder with children, there's like, we want them to say succeed in school, but at the same time, you also want them to question society and societal norms and question authority at times, because you don't want them to just fall into this trap of like not questioning things. So, I always wonder with children, like, where's the line? How do you know if what you're doing is the right thing to do? So how do you instill that confidence in some of your clients by saying, like, what's right for your kids? Yeah. Like, you're the one that knows, like, okay, this one, like my first child, they behave differently than my second child, and so I'm going to parent them differently. Or is it like there's one way that really is the right way?
So you're going to parent the same way, because the way that I coach parents to parent in the way that I parent is really with mutual respect. So the happy medium is what we call positive discipline. And so we're parenting our kids the way that we would want to be treated. So I always say, if you were on Netflix parenting and there were camera crews in there, would you be really happy with the way you're handling a situation, that it would be okay if it was on Netflix? And if you're okay with parenting on Netflix, then you're parenting in a way that you're not overpowering your kids, and they should be able to have a say and have a voice. Whereas if we're just, overpowering and being super authoritarian and, I'm the boss and I said so, you probably don't want people to watch, and your kids are probably more afraid to speak and have their voice be heard. And so when we look at boundaries, kids need them absolutely from morning to night.
Because you can't be too passive either, right?
Oh.
Say whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Because they'll take advantage of that.
Those are our battles.
Because that's what my dog did, at least.
Yeah. We're not going to pick our battles. We're actually going to deal with everything, but we're going to deal with it in an effective way. And so when we look at boundaries, we want to look at that kids are born with 2 predetermined jobs. One job is to please you, which is great. We're all happy when our kids are doing the things we want them to do. And the other job is contradictory. It's to push boundaries until boundaries are found. So they're born innately needing to push boundaries. So when parents say, well, they're just pushing me to the edge, of course they are. They're pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until you learn the skills to set the boundary.
Right.
And when you can set the boundary in an age-appropriate way and follow through, and this is the key, follow through with discipline and not punishment, that's where you'll see success. So
do you think parents fear their kids not liking them? Is that why they have a hard time with the discipline aspect?
No, they have a hard time because they're punishing. And that's what feels terrible. So when we look at punishment, it's anything. Jane Nelson, the founder of Positive Discipline, states that, punishment is anything that causes blame, shame, or pain. So we think timeouts, empty threats. If you don't do that, if you don't knock it off, you're not going to go to the birthday party, all those things. Bribery, rewards, taking things away, left, right, and center. That's it. That's gone. All the things that don't feel good. We do not feel good when we do those things as parents. Our kids do not feel good in turn. Those are all those punishment things. So that's where your kids, they might not like you. They might not like you if you're using punishment tactics, and that's going to weaken your parent-child connection. When you discipline, the definition is to teach and train. That's it. Teaching and training, just like your dog, just like my puppy.
But I do give positive reinforcement to my dog.
You still want to get positive reinforcement.
Okay, so that's fine. So the treat's fine for a dog, but maybe not.
And you just don't want to reward. You don't want to say, if you get straight A's, I'm going to pay you. If you do this, you're going to get this. Because when they don't want the thing you're giving them, dogs are always going to want the treats. It's a little bit different.
Yes, of course.
But if they don't want the reward you're giving them, then what? Do you need a bigger reward, a more expensive reward? Do you now need to force them to do it? Like, rewards are what we call Band-Aid solutions, because you're just masking it in the moment instead of teaching them to intrinsically and internally want to do the homework, want to keep their room tidy, want to do the dishes. So there's a way to get your kids to do things as long as you really set that stage for success.
Funny, you can kind of see me like
You're like,
because like it all makes sense, right? And I think, oftentimes when we're growing up, we, like you said, we all want to be better parents than our parents were, even if our parents were great parents.
Exactly.
There's usually like one thing that we're kind of like, this is the one thing I would change. But it's interesting, I think, when the real world sets in and you're busy and you're tired and you get home from work and you're hungry and you're being pulled in 10,000 different directions, right? Like, oftentimes, for example, like I'll come home from work, right? I had a hard day. Maybe a client wasn't happy with something, or they were complaining, or I had a hard time with staff that I was dealing with. And I come home to my barking dog, and my husband saying, oh, did you do this? And you forgot to do this. And did you get the dry cleaning, right? Like, everyone has so many things on their plate. Mothers, though, come home and it's two kids pulling at you in every different direction. There's only so much to give. And I imagine that when you're patient and you have nothing really there to give, that's when you fall back on these, maybe, like, I don't want to call them lazier parenting decisions, but it's like
the punishment
easier, the punishment, like that seems easier than, hold on, let me sit down and really assess how I'm going to deal with this situation. And 20 minutes, I'm going to come to you with what I think is appropriate. Like, it's in the moment, just, we got to get shit done because I got to get you to bed, because, you're just kind of following the steps. Do you think that happens to a lot of people?
Absolutely. We're pushed, we're stretched like a rubber band way too thin. And if parents haven't taken the time up front to learn the skills, to get the support, to understand things, then you are just grasping at straws. And that actually feels more exhausting and more overwhelming. And that can really pull on your patience as well. I mean, even thinking about like how we want parenting to be we want it to be easy and we want it to come naturally. But once you learn the skills, that's where you get to that place. So I'm thinking about Beckett, my 11-year-old, who had a haircut. Probably it was not this last haircut, but about a month or so ago. And he didn't like his haircut. And I'm biased, but he's very cute. He's adorable. I just love him. Anyway, he has this middle part thing going right now. And it's like, got to be a little bit long. It needs to be down to here. It can't be too short.
Yes.
And he got his haircut, and he didn't like his haircut. And we were booked to go to brunch with another family who happened to have 2 daughters, a little bit older than him. So as you can imagine, he really wanted to look good at brunch, and his haircut wasn't great. And he goes upstairs and he starts crying, and he says, I'm not going to brunch. And I said, well, Beckett, we have reservations, so we are going to go to brunch, as a family, and other families waiting for us. And Chris is like, no, you're going to brunch. And okay, this is where we start to all of a sudden, get into the normal, what you would see in most cases. And then I said, well, just let me handle it for 1 second. So my wheels are turning and I'm thinking, okay, I need to handle this in an effective way. I need to make sure I don't have detriment to our relationship. I don't need to overpower him, but I do want him to learn a lesson, because he needs to know that you don't just, I'm not going to do something because I don't feel like doing it. So I said to him, okay, Beckett, here's the deal. You're absolutely right. I can't make you. I'm not going to pick you up. You're bigger than me. I'm not carrying you to the car. I can't make you go to brunch. So here's your choice. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to get in the car. And in 60 seconds, if you're in the car, then you're coming to brunch and you're choosing to go to brunch. So you're choosing to go to basketball. But if you choose to not get in the car because you don't want to show your hair at brunch, then you're choosing to not show your hair at your basketball game this afternoon. So you decide where you think you want to have your day look like. But if 60 seconds happens, even a second after, I'm already going to be backing out. So I came out. Chris was in the car. Hudson was in the car. I said, we have 60 seconds, start the time.
Yeah.
And most parents want to give multiple chances. Well, maybe he needs me to go back in. Maybe not, because we're feeling guilty.
Yes.
But there's no guilt in teaching a lesson, because what we want our kids to know is that decisions they make about their lives affect them. It's not affecting me. It doesn't affect me. Sure, I wanted him at brunch, but it doesn't affect me if he goes to his basketball game. It affects him. When I came home, he was happy as can be. He did not go. He did not come out.
Oh.
And he's 11, so we could leave him
Right.
alone. If you have a 3-year-old,
Yeah,
you're not going to do that.
strategy.
Different strategy.
Yeah.
But he had called me on our way down and said I was getting my shoes on, and we were on Avenue Road. And I said, you know what, Beckett, it would have been helpful if you opened the door and just said, Mommy, I'm coming. And then I would have waited for you to get your shoes on. But there was no sign of you, so I assumed you had made your choice. So.
Oh, you're a better woman than I am. I can tell you this.
But this is how you handle it. There was no guilt, no anger,
Right.
no shame, no issue with our relationship, no power struggle, but we still taught a lesson. So it didn't let him get away with things. We're not saying, whatever you want, Beckett, no worries, don't go.
Yeah.
No, we're firm, we're fair, we're consistent.
Yeah.
But there's a way to set it up, and that takes practice.
And I'm almost wondering, because in that specific scenario, I would imagine I would feel like if my husband says, I'm not coming to the family dinner this weekend, I would feel embarrassed when I got to the family dinner, right? Like I'd say, oh, my husband's not here. Or are they thinking about me? I imagine that you learn a lot about yourself and your own insecurities in these moments, because you might feel like it says something about you, like he didn't show up. Yeah. So now it's, oh, Tia can't get her kid to come.
Absolutely.
Or what does it say about your family? Like, they don't do stuff together, and you have to, I guess, in some way kind of like put that to the side, or at least acknowledge it, like where the true insecurity is coming from, like, or the anger.
Yeah, you've got to be confident in what you're doing. And that's why I say, once you learn the skills and you take time and you learn these things, you can feel confident in it. If you're not confident in it, that's where we waver, we get kind of gray, where we go back and forth. And that plays on your confidence. So I knew showing up to brunch that I was simply going to say, Beckett has a haircut he's unhappy with. He's choosing to miss all his activities today. It was a choice he decided to make. Same goes for young toddlers. Parents will say, natural consequences is let your kids learn from life. Let life be the teacher. So when you don't wear your coat, you're cold. When you forget your water bottle, you're thirsty. Like, these are the things that happen. We don't need to force the coat on our child. We don't need to drive the forgotten water bottle to school.
They'll learn
all
pretty
of
quickly.
These things are going to be a detriment to your child, because we have to teach them resiliency and to be resourceful and to learn how to navigate. And if you're always bailing them out because it's your problem that they don't have a water bottle, or it's your problem that they don't want to wear their coat, their problems are always going to be your problems, and they're not. So my kids at 14 and 11, their problems, their homework, their grades are not my problem. But I help them set the stage for success. Absolutely.
It sounds like you also then, particularly in the case of forgetting the water bottle, right, at school, particularly maybe even for younger kids, you do that at a young age. I'm not sure. But, I think a lot of mothers would think, oh, the teacher's going to think I'm a bad parent, instead of using it as a lesson, right?
Yeah. So I say email the teacher. Email the teacher and let them know we're working on battle-free mornings. We've set the system. They know their expectations. We're allowing them to make choices. And the consequences are X, Y, or Z. And the teacher will be like, wow, good for you. It's only going to help their behavior in the classroom, where it all stems from home. It really does.
Now, battle-free mornings, I'm going to go right to some of the questions that people gave us. Jazz was actually the first one. I have a question. I have a question for you. Specifically talking about battle-free, he didn't use the term battle-free,
but he said mornings are hell.
But he said mornings are hell. How do I get my kids out the door with more ease? So how would he do that? Now, his kids are, I believe, 6 and 8, 9 and 7, 7 and 9.
Yeah. So most of the time we have hellish mornings, because again, getting your kids out the door is falling all on you. So what I like parents to think about is parenting is really 90% proactive, 10% what I call responsive. So we're not going to react. We're not going to be angry. We're going to be calm and matter of fact. So 10% responsive.
And so the rest is going to not overreact. Okay.
No, we're not going to overreact, because as soon as you show your emotions, as soon as Jazz is angry in the morning about them not getting ready, kids are like, ding, 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 amazing. I get a lot of power and attention from this. Why should I get dressed? Why should I hurry? Why shouldn't I just lay in bed? This is making mom or dad angry and mad. kids are going to take negative or positive attention and power. So when you react, they've actually already won that moment. And we're not looking for us to win or them to win, but we are looking for cooperation. And you're not going to get it when you get to that place. So for battle-free mornings, what we need to look at is, what are the things we're doing currently as parents that are creating some of those challenges? Sleep, number one. If you're having to wake your kids up in the morning, drag them out of bed, set the alarm for them, they're not getting enough quality quantity sleep.
So it starts from the night.
Starts from the night before and the night before and the night before. So earlier bedtimes. I will bet most people listening wake their kids up and their kids struggle to go to bed at night and they go to bed too late. So my kids will probably kill me for saying this live, but on nights when they don't have sports, they will still be in bed by 7:45 and asleep.
So now, given that you have a 14-year-old, I imagine, like, do you have sports most nights though?
He does swim five days a week.
Okay.
One day's at early morning at 5 a.m.
Oh, okay.
So he goes to bed early to make sure he's
tough
up for that.
Right? Because most of those things don't start till 7.
Yeah, so he's home after 9 a few nights a week, but he's 14 now. Up until the age when he was probably 7 and my youngest was 5, they were still going to bed at 5:30 or 6 for years and years and years. So there isn't a quote unquote right bedtime. It's the bedtime that allows your kids to go to bed with ease and wake up on their own. If you're waking your kids up, that's the first place.
Is that for adults too, out of curiosity? Because I go to bed really early.
How much better do you feel when you wake up without an alarm?
Yeah. I go to bed at 8:30 in this morning. Like I just naturally woke up before 5. Right?
It's amazing. Yeah. And that's the best case for everybody's, internal sleep clock, which is their circadian rhythm, which is really earlier to bed, earlier to rise. Teenagers start to push this and their sports play a factor in that. But at some point it's great if sleep is taken care of in a positive way so you can help get them back to that once their schedule allows. So sleep is the first place for Jazz to look. The second place is, do we give reminders? So are we just get dressed? Have you brushed your teeth? Why aren't your teeth brushed? We got to go. I'm leaving you. If you're not ready, I'm leaving you. Nobody's leaving their kids.
Right.
No, don't say it if you're not going to do it.
Right. You have to follow through with this stuff.
Yeah, and you don't want to follow through with something that you don't feel good about or that's against the law, and you're not sending your kids to school. And your kids know that you're taking them to school. So don't say that. So we want to look at how can we avoid reminders. So a simple way to do that is creating morning routine charts. So for younger kids, pictures and words. For kids who are already reading, they can create their own lists. Put it on your kids. Go through it with them. What are the things you need to do to get ready each morning? Okay, which order do we need to do that? Is there anything else we need to add? Oh, you need to pack your library books on Tuesdays. Great. Let's add that on the Tuesday calendar. Have it however works for you to organize it and for your kids to organize it. And then we do what we call TTP. Teach, train, and practice. Do not slap the chart on the wall and just say, oh, now my kids are going to know. No, you need insurance that they know that they can do it. So you practice it. You go through it. You pretend to be them. You do it wrong so they can say, no, you don't do it like that. Kids love that. Kids will eat that up. And then you have your insurance. And then you say your follow through. So, for example, morning routines could be when the timer goes off, it's time for us to leave. It's my job to get you to school on time. It's your job to be ready. Either you're ready or you can go as is. That can be one option. The other option is when you waste morning time and we're leaving late, you're wasting your after school iPad time. You choose. Where would you like to spend your time? So now it's all going back to your kids. It's not you saying, if you don't do this, then this. If you don't do this, then this.
Now, what makes that not a punishment, though? I get that the time that's moved. Is that what feels different? Because you're like, the time you've shifted the whole day. So that decreases the time, but you're still picking the kids up at the same time.
Yeah, so it's not a punishment because you give them advance notice. So consequences are not punishment.
Okay.
Consequences are only punishment if you set them up ineffectively in the wrong way or you overuse them. So a lot of times parents will just say, I have to give a consequence for everything. They can't go to the birthday party because they didn't clean up. Well, cleaning up and the birthday party, don't relate. Mm-hmm. Most likely you just said, you didn't clean your room, you're not going. You said it in the moment. You don't get to call all the shots. But if you say in advance, either you finished your homework first, or there's not going to be time for your TV show tonight, you decide, you're giving them a choice to make a decision that works for them or make a decision that doesn't work for them. That's teaching life lessons. We all, even as adults, we either go to work and earn money or we don't go to work and we don't earn money. But if all of us want to go out and buy things and travel and do things, It's not happening unless you've done them before. So we're teaching them to do the things that need to be done so they can have the things that they want.
This is good stuff. Taking notes back here. Okay. This is, so my next question, I'm going to kind of go in more order of age. Someone had messaged me about the crying it out method. Has a less than 6-month-old. Do we like it? Do we not? What is the crying out method for the rest of us who don't know what this is? I imagine they were crying and I just let them cry.
Yeah, like the Ferber method. So the cry it out method is really, is it okay to put your child in a crib and just let them go for as long until they fall asleep? Just let them go. Could be 2 hours, could be 1 hour, could be 10 minutes. So I always say when it comes to sleep training, first you ask your doctor if your doctor feels like your baby's at a healthy weight and it's okay to begin sleep training. Oftentimes the 6 months, so the 6-month mark is really like the green light for most babies. Below 6 months or without a doctor's consent, I always say ask your doctor, is it an okay time? Also follow your gut, as a parent, how things are going. When it comes to crying it out, I actually used the cry it out method for my first and changed and developed a lot of things as time has gone on, because I'm not a firm believer in letting your child get to a place where they're so worked up that they can't actually calm back down. So the idea is that infants, when they cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, they can get to a place where they just can't calm themselves. They don't have those skills yet. Whereas what I really recommend is implementing more of like an interval method. So you set a time that you feel really comfortable with. Maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 2 minutes as you're starting. And you set that timer and you do your bedtime routine. You get them settled, you lay them down drowsy but awake, and then you follow an interval. And I work with families to determine what that interval is going to look like to make sure it's going to be successful, how you progress nightly. But ultimately, parents get to do whatever they feel is best. And I'm not here to say that the cry out method won't work. My first son did sleep train. I just found it was much easier with my second to adjust things.
This has nothing really to do with crying out method, but my sister-in-law, she came here, she's in Alberta, and she came here with her less than 1-year-old, and she had to go to this party because her friend was getting married or whatever. And we were like, we'll take care of her kid. This will be a great practice for me and my husband to like see if we like this. And she's like, okay, but she's going into like this like separate, like she didn't want to be away from. I'm trying to think, maybe she was
separation anxiety.
Yeah, separation anxiety. Maybe she was older than a year, but she's like, I think she'll be okay. And I was from the perspective, I was like, look, you mothers, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. And I was like, she's going to cry at the start because she sees you.
Yeah.
She's going to stop because then you're out of sight, out of mind. That was my thinking with no experience with kids whatsoever. The kid cried for like 4 hours straight. I at one point, I thought, can children die from crying? Like it was like nonstop, the crying. I did everything. I tried putting in the crib, out of the crib, dancing, music. And like literally, I was so exhausted. And I asked my husband at the time, he looked, because he had ordered their Uber ride, and he said, he's like, they haven't even gone to the restaurant yet. And I was like, I'm done. I'm trying out. I'm done. And we don't have kids. So, so that's how that went. That's just a fun little story. So you moms, you're all doing your best. I have a much better understanding of what it is you're going through. Okay, moving on to the next thing. So this was it's funny. Sleep training tip was the next one, but I guess that goes out with the crying out method, but particularly for someone who's regressed. Do you find you see that a lot when kids, like they're good and then all of a sudden they've gone back?
There's always regressions. There's like the 4-month sleep regression, the 9-month sleep regression. There's always regressions that will happen as the child's brain is developing and things are shifting. Also, you go on vacation and maybe your child shares a room with you because that's how the hotel works. And then you go home and they don't want to sleep in their room. So we're always going back to sleep teaching when you have those regressions, but consistency is key. So finding a sleep plan that you feel good about. So if you're going to use the cry it out method and you don't feel good about that over and over and over, then I would choose something you feel like you can remain consistent with.
What about families who bring the kid into their room or into their bed
and co-sleep?
Yeah.
I'm not a co-sleeper, but I'm not here to say it's good or bad. Again, do what you feel like. I always like to say to clients of mine, let's try and create habits that we want to keep, not do things that we want to do for a little while and then habits we have to break, because ultimately it might feel great in the moment, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be co-sleeping with my 14-year-old. So at some point we have to, change things. So what's going to be easier? Is it easier to kind of start off on the right foot, or is it easier for you to break those habits later? And that's, again, what families get to do.
That makes sense. I could have used that for my dog as well, because he sleeps with us.
Oh, my doggy's in a crate.
That's, because you have boundaries.
Because I have boundaries. Yes. and I clearly know. My puppy is so well trained.
Of course. What? Stuff that he broke, correct?
No, I could have got that.
Okay, next one. How to build a positive mindset and resilience at a young age? I thought that was an interesting question, because it's not very specific, but important nonetheless.
Very important. So one of the biggest things I would say is teaching our kids that mistakes are okay. So mistakes are actually, I always say to my boys, the biggest gift. Like, what a gift to have a mistake so that you can learn from it and grow and do better next time. So we want to teach our kids that mistakes are great, that we try and try again. And a lot of times that comes with how we support our kids. So if we are frustrated because our kids can't figure out a problem with their math homework, or we're frustrated because they won't go poop on the potty and we're mad at them, we actually minimize their ability to really feel confident and have that, that real strong self-assurance, because they're afraid to disappoint us. They're afraid to upset us. So much of their confidence stems from our calm and matter-of-fact parenting and giving them opportunities to learn from their mistakes.
Are you naturally a calm person then?
Well, yeah, I am. Like I actually...
Maybe you're not the Spitfire I thought you were.
I'm calm as in that I'm not well, Chris might tell you different. I don't know. I don't think that I'm reactive. So, and some parents hate me for it, but I haven't yelled. I don't yell at my kids. I don't yell at my husband. I'm just not a yeller by nature. I didn't yell in my classroom with my students. And when Hudson, my oldest, was in grade 5, his classroom was, quote unquote, the more well-behaved class. And the other grade 5 class was sort of having some troubles. And I had to come together for music to practice for the Christmas concert. And the music teacher was just getting ready to retire. She was tired, exhausted, and at her wit's end. And with 60 boys in the classroom, 30 of which were having trouble and 30 of which were standing there, she yelled and yelled and yelled. And Hudson had never heard an adult yell. And he got in the car that day and he burst into tears. And he said, "Mommy, I didn't know adults could talk like that." He didn't even know that it was yelling. He didn't even know that people could talk to kids that way. Like, he was so shocked by the yelling that school had to call me and we had to, work through with him that it's okay. But it's just one of those things that I wasn't screamed at as a child. My dad was pretty firm. He yelled a couple times. But for parents who have been yelled at a lot in their life, that's a trauma that really stays with you. And it's something that comes out when you're frustrated and when you're irritated and when you're lacking patience. And so it's a place where we need to work personally so that we can become more calm to parent our kids in that way.
Okay. Wow. That's like just life lessons, period.
It is
not even parents.
Parenting is life lessons for sure.
I feel that way. Like, I feel like you learn so much about yourself in the process, I imagine.
Absolutely. And when you see your kids who resemble you a lot, you're like, oh man, that is so me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mirror, right? Yeah, like, "Ooh, I don't like what I see so much sometimes." But it forces you to make changes to yourself too, which are probably important ones, and changes that you probably wish you had made earlier too, right?
And showing your kids that we make mistakes too. We are not perfect just because we're the adults. I'm running a yelling workshop on Wednesday, and we bring our kids on to help us break the yelling cycle. We empower our kids. We admit to the fact that we want to make changes. So much of that is role modeling to them that they're not going to always, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're here to make changes, and we all need support and we all need help.
Oh, sure we do. I need my mom back. She needs to move in, live with me. Okay. How do you motivate your kids to practice, study, or do their homework without being pushy? Or maybe you're supposed to be pushy, but I'll leave that to you to answer.
Yeah. So certain things, it depends on the situation in the area you're working with. So if we're looking at piano practice, let's say a lot of parents have their kids in instruments and doing that kind of thing. My boys have played piano since they were really little. I was under the mindset that I would like them to learn how to read music and to enjoy it. But they weren't looking to be the next, famous pianist.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to force them to practice. But I was happy to pay for the the classes so that they could learn those skills. As long as they were happy, I was happy. So they actually quite enjoy piano and they look forward to their weekly lesson because it's just a half an hour and it's a different part of their mind. A lot of times we try and force our kids to do things when they're not that interested. So if they're not interested in it, you want to find what they're interested in.
Now, maybe this is just kids like trial and error, right? You know, kids think that they're interested in something and then they try it and then they're not, but you've already
Good question.
put the money up front for a whole year or a whole school semester or whatnot.
Yeah. So I always say that you sit back with your kids and you say, okay, if you're interested in piano or gymnastics or, hockey, we're committing for this term. If you decide you don't like it 2, 3, 4 lessons in, we have committed to it. But at the end of this term on this date, put a sticker on the calendar, give them a visual, let them know how many more weeks they have. You can decide if you would like to sign back up for that or if you'd like to choose something else to try. So you're giving them some control, you're giving them some power, but you're not saying, oh, you don't like it anymore, fine, let's just waste that money.
Got it. Okay, I like that. Okay, that's a good one. I know a lot of my friends are kind of going through that as well because the kids come home from school and Tracy's in this.
Yeah, exactly.
And they want to do that and then they don't like it.
And with homework on that last question, of course, we're not going to say, you're sending them to school and they don't have to do their homework like you would piano. Mm-hmm. Homework is something that, really is a non-negotiable. It does need to get done. But we want to build that intrinsic drive. So our job as parents is to set the stage for an after-school routine that allows them to get the homework done. And what I encourage parents to do is think about what needs to be done first and then let them know when those things are done, then they can move to their iPad, their phone, going outside to play, toys, TV, whatever
That's that
it
positive
is.
kind of
So,
reinforcement.
so really making a chart, having a list if you need that, and showing them that when all these things are done, then you can move there. So the when, then language is really helpful for parents. Instead of, if you don't do your homework, you're not getting your phone. That opens the doors for power struggles, sounds super negative, and your kids are like, well, make me do my homework. Whereas if you say, when you're done your homework, then you can have your TV time. It's like, oh, I'm choosing to get to my TV time, so I better get that done.
My wheels are turning now. What about some, I talked to a lot of people who are adults now and they said, I wasn't a great student and I don't think school was really for me. And I thrived even though I pretty much skipped every class or didn't do my homework. But you said homework is like a non-negotiable. I imagine some parents probably kind of foster that, saying like, well, maybe my kid the school system isn't really right for them. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think you've got to do what you feel is important as a parent and what you think is important for your kids. So school is a very important part of our lives for our kids. We've always I am not a procrastinator. Chris is a procrastinator. So I've always worked with the kids to come in, do your homework first thing. It's the first thing we do. We unpack our backpacks, we wash our hands. They've already had snack in the car. If parents aren't giving their kids snack on the way home, save your life and just give them snacks.
Oh, I want snacks on the way home too. Everyone should have snacks on the way home.
And then they come home and they do their homework. And if they don't do their homework, I have a client of mine whose 9-year-old was really struggling with the homework. And when she came to me, she's like, it's taking us 3 hours to trying to get his homework done. He's crying, I'm yelling, we're mad. I'm like, okay, let's just tone this back. 3 hours isn't an option. Your 9-year-old doesn't have 3 hours of homework. What do you think's a fair amount? She said, probably 30 or 40 minutes. I said, fine, we're going to set a timer. There's a timer on my Instagram links in bio that I love to use for visual and audio reminders, especially with transitions for kids. So I said, set the timer for 40 minutes. Let him know. When the timer goes off, homework time is done. Either the homework's done before the timer goes off or we've wasted what comes next that he's motivated by.
Right.
Walk away. Parents need to just walk away. Set the stage and then walk away. Don't engage. So I always say disengage, don't engage. If you engage with your kids and you pick up the end of the rope, well, you need to do your homework. If you don't do your homework, you're going to get bad grades. They are listening to you like Charlie Brown Peanuts.
Right.
It's let them go to school without their homework done.
Kind of like us at the office even. Think about yourself when your boss comes in and it's just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The same thing. We don't change that much, right?
No.
We're really just big kids.
Yeah, we're just yeah, exactly.
Right.
So put it back again on them. When they go to school the next day without their homework done, they have to feel what it feels like. They have to face their teacher. They have to have that grade. If it doesn't bother you, all of a sudden your kids are more apt to want to do the things that you want them to do. But if it bothers you and they know there's all this pressure, that's where you're actually avoiding the positive outcome based on that power struggle.
Okay. I have 2 more questions. Next one. How do you foster open communication with a preteen without being in their business 24/7.
I know. So what I want every parent to do is find time every single day to connect with their kids, no matter what the age is. So we call this golden time. It's basically 10 minutes a day doing something your kids enjoy. For teens, it might be, doing TikTok dances with them. It might be sitting down and talking to them, or watching something they enjoy, or might be going for a walk. Baking together. My older son said we should make creme brulee and try and use that torch. Great. We will make creme brulee and we will use that torch that we have never used.
Yes.
So finding ways to connect with your kids, because when you connect with your kids, they feel seen, heard, and understood. And that's when they feel supported and they want to open up. So creating a moment during the day to spend 10 minutes, and before bed when you tuck your kids in, to give them that opportunity. We use a phrase, tell me one thing that happened in your day that I wouldn't know about, as a way to get your kids intrigued to share something that they're the expert on. So even with my 14-year-old, I can say, tell me one thing that happened today that I wouldn't know about.
It's not like, tell me your deepest secret. Just, it could be anything.
It could be that they served hamburgers for lunch.
Right.
If that's all he wants to say that day, I don't need to force and push. But sometimes he'll say something like, oh, we wrote a book in class and I had to read it out loud to the grade 3s. Wow, I didn't know you wrote a book. What'd you write your book on? Oh, me and my buddy, we wrote a book on, it was about a bunny and being afraid of mistakes. But so I said, oh, well, that's so great. And I said, what age group's that for? He said, I think for anybody. And we started to talk about children's books and what age groups they're for, and all because of, tell me one thing you did today that I wouldn't know about. Or tell me one thing that happened today that I wouldn't know about. And kids who are at daycare will love to come out and tell you something that happened during their day, or young kids. Or
otherwise, if you say, tell me one thing that happened today, they'll probably tell you the thing that,
or I know.
Like, yeah, or like, nothing. I had cereal for breakfast. And you're like, yeah, I know, I gave you the cereal.
Yeah. So the thing that I wouldn't know about allows them to have the power, and they get to choose anything that they know I already don't know.
Right.
And so that intrigues them to want to open up.
Oh, I like that one. I've never heard that before. Okay, last but not least, how do we encourage our teens to be upstanders on social media chats without ultimatums? I imagine this is coming from a parent who's asking their kid to, like, if they're seeing bullying going on, or if you're seeing kids be mean, and maybe standing up for somebody, even if it like goes against maybe what your friends are saying. Is kind of what I'm taking from that.
I know. Social media is such a hard thing. I don't envy young kids trying to grow up in today's world and having that social media. So I always say that we want to make sure we feel we have an open communication line with our teens, so that we feel that we can trust them, so that they can come to you and say, hey, so-and-so posted this and I don't feel great about it. Maybe they want to ask for your support and your guidance on what to say in that situation. If you're in a combative relationship with your teen and everything's a battle, they're not going to want to come to you. So opening that line, spending 10 minutes a day, building that bond and connection. And a lot of times, we use what we call random safety checks. And so Hudson has social media. He's 14. He has a phone. And I have to have the code to get in. It's parked downstairs in the kitchen or in my room every night. And at any point in time, if I want to do a safety check during the day or in the night, he knows I might open his phone and check. This is important, not because I think he's doing something wrong, but lots of things happen on social media and email and text that might be inappropriate, that young teens don't know how to navigate, and they don't know when to come to parents or not come to parents. And we've already worked through a number of things, from random safety checks that make my child feel at ease. I'm not there to blame. I'm not mad at him. I'm not any of those things. But we're there to teach those lessons. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what lives on social media forever if you post something, what doesn't. So many lessons to be learned.
Oh my gosh, that does sound overwhelming. Like, you're right. I don't envy the day, because I'm so grateful that there was no...
We didn't even have that. I know.
But at the same time, I'm so grateful for social media, as I'm sure you are, because you're crushing it on TikTok.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to put the link for your TikTok here, because it really is, it's so impressive. And all the tips that come up, like sometimes I just randomly go in there. And again, it's not because I have kids, but like they're like good life lessons, a lot of them. Has TikTok changed, has social media, I guess, in general, changed how you navigate business? Is it how you get the majority of your business?
Absolutely. Sometimes Instagram will randomly shut down your account, like something happens and you're like, no, it's your business. It's when you run an online business, social media is so much of your business. And so Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of the things, email marketing, TikTok, my son, when I started it, he was like, that's cringy, Mommer. You are not dancing on TikTok. I'm like, don't worry, I am not going to dance on TikTok. But he did say when I get to 1 million followers that him and I should do a dance together.
Oh, I love that.
Maybe.
It's not that far off at the way you're going. It's interesting because I work with a lot of real estate agents and I try to teach them the power of using social media for their business. And I still get a lot of pushback, like, oh, TikTok's just for young people, and LinkedIn's just for professionals, and Facebook's just for old people. But it's amazing. Like, think of what you're doing. You're literally giving parenting tips on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I know
edutaining. I'm not dancing. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just teaching.
And it's like pretty much you talking straight to selfie mode on camera.
Every time.
So everyone always thinks that you need this big production and you need, you know, like a studio and lights and cameras and people to help. But really, like, you've done such an incredible job spreading the word of what you do. And parents are on TikTok because what do parents do? They follow their kids, right? So the kids go on TikTok.
So many parents on TikTok and business owners and people looking to learn how to clean stains off of things. Like, TikTok is actually pretty educational when you get to the educational side.
Well, and the good thing, once you're in that mode, right, that's what it continues to feed you.
Yes.
Right? So,
Absolutely.
you know, a lot of people say, well, it's just people dancing. I'm like, but maybe because you're watching the dance.
Maybe stop clicking on them.
Because if you stop clicking on the dancing videos, you might get something else.
I know somebody I know said, my husband said, I said to him, why do I keep getting the dancing cowboys on my TikTok? And he's like, stop clicking on them. And I was like, until my followers, stop clicking on
the dancing cowboys. Oh, I don't know about this. I'm going to have to look into this. I guess, you know, I just wanted to kind of end off today because you've given such incredible advice in a short period of time. Who is your typical, like, client? Like, do you find people come to you proactively or sort of when they're at wit's end? And my guess is wit's end.
Wit's end. I love when a parent comes to me, though, and they're saying, you know, I'm pregnant with my, you know, my first, and I want to go off on the right foot. Or they start early on with their 1.5-year-old. They're like, I'm starting to see some behaviors. I'd like to nip this in the bud. Mm-hmm. Great. But everything is fixable. So even on Wednesday, I'm running this workshop and a mom said, but my kids are 13 and 14. Is it too late to stop yelling? No, ask yourselves, do you want to yell for the next however many years, or do you want to make a change? Like, it's never too late to make a change. So the parents who usually come to me are at their wit's end. Their kids aren't listening. They're tired of yelling. They're tired of the battle. It doesn't matter if you have a 1-year-old or a teen. We actually work root cause problem solving. So we're not just giving you the surface level how-to tools. We're helping you understand why behaviors happen, what's causing it, where it's coming from, so you can really understand your kids and know how to support them in an effective way.
Is it usually like a package or something that people purchase? Is it, you know, one time, that's it, and then they leave and they think they have it all figured out?
No, one time will never work. You need all the pieces of the puzzle. So it's like a puzzle box and you're missing 2 pieces. You're always going to be frustrated that you haven't completed it. So in order to really make changes, if it's bedtime changes, potty training, homework, back talking, screen times, you actually need all the pieces for all of the things. We can't just pinpoint certain areas. And so we work inside our 12-week coaching program, which is the Parenting with Purpose method. It's an online program. We help parents from around the world, and it's in conjunction with daily support and weekly coaching calls. So we need to answer your specific questions about your child, your routines, your issues, and you need to know how to implement those tools in your home so you can build your confidence and know that when you graduate, you're just on rinse and repeat.
Now, people who are watching this who aren't obviously in the greater Toronto area, like, you do a lot of this stuff virtually, or is it
all virtually? We've helped parents from Saudi Arabia, Israel, UK, Australia, US, Canada, all over. It doesn't matter your time zone. It doesn't matter your schedule. All that matters is if you want to be the best parent you can be, you want to learn the skills, then definitely reach out. We offer a free strategy call to connect and talk about your challenges. You get to determine if we're a good fit. If you're not ready to move forward, we're totally pressure free. It has to be the right step for you.
Okay, we'll make sure to put all those links in the description here. I kind of want to just end with maybe you kind of giving one last piece of advice or a tip or even something that maybe you've learned about yourself, like, on this journey. I've been working now 2 years with realtors. Like, I'm a real estate agent by day, but by night I actually am helping real estate agents with their business. And it's been very interesting in helping other people, what I've actually learned about myself. I would say one of the greatest things I've learned is how deep the insecurities go with people. You know, I always thought I was insecure, but now that I've been trying to help other people, say, get on camera or make phone calls, whatever it is, to help their business.
Scared to death.
They're scared to death. And it made me grateful that sometimes I'm a couple steps further ahead than I thought I was. You know, you always think that you're suffering alone and in silence a little bit. But anything that kind of comes to mind for you, that because you've had so much experience helping so many parents, maybe there's something that you wish that they would know, or some gift that they would give themselves, pat on the back, to kind of ease some of the troubles.
Yeah, well, they just need to know that it's not your fault if you're parenting in a way that you're not feeling great about today. Like, it really isn't your fault. And to know that, I know you have little voices in your head that tell you, like, I'll never be able to make this change. My child will never do this. Why does that parent do it? I'm not capable. You absolutely are. Like, everybody can have anything that they want if you put your mind to it. And asking for help is a gift. It's not a weakness. And too often, I think that when parents reach out and they say, I'm at my wit's end, I'm struggling, it's basically saying, you know, I don't know if I can swear on here, but I'm a shitty parent.
Yeah.
And you're not a shitty parent. You're just a parent who hasn't learned the skills yet. So raise your hand, ask for help, know that you're capable, and know that you can create anything you want with your family and your home.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good place to end it, on such a positive note. As we were saying, we like positive things around here. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here today and for obviously giving these amazing tips. I'm going to start using some of these on my dog.
Absolutely.
I'll let you know if they work.
Thanks for having
you guys next time.